Hello again. Today's that cleanup day. And right before we start, I was cleaning up and I dropped a wall wart. I'm going to show you the inside because it is scary. We all know this, or at least suspect it, but let me show you. Now, I know this particular one in this American plug, but I dropped it. It broke in half and a wire has come off. Now, just a couple of little things here. First, the reason for this heat shrink tubing is to make sure nothing gets near the positive and negative wires. There's a couple of components there that are covered. But if this wire does come off, it can touch any one of these things here. That's not good. Secondly, they very clearly labeled that neutral. Now, the reason for that is that most of the oomph is taken out over there, but this plug here is reversible. Yes. So your safety is reliant on who knows what. Really not good. On top of that, the board itself isn't glued in at all, so it flaps around. I often wondered why the in the top, you see that hole there? There's an LED, and sometimes it was sticking out and sometimes not. Well, that's because the LED is directly attached to the board, and the whole board moves up and down. Here's your output. Look how close mechanically that is to there. Yeah, I never have liked wall warts, and this is just further confirmation that they are naughty nasty. Now, one more thing. Lovely bare connections on the top there. Bit of soldered wire. Guess where those connections go? So when the whole thing is nicely shoved up in its case, no real markings on it. That symbol there means double insulated. Yeah. Well, it's amazing how you can comply with that, isn't it? There's a model number, but it doesn't mean anything. Untraceable. Piece of junk. Ick. Now then, having said all that, do you think I'm going to repair it? Of course I'm going to repair it. Probably should throw it away. Today we're going to get on with the radar. But I thought you'd like to see that first. The radar, the base came, so we can put it together. All right, a water tower. There it is, picture of it. QR codes. I wonder if those will work for you. There you go. You can figure out what the thing was. It's from Outland Models. First impressions. Without opening the bag, the instructions are, I mean, it's very simple. Shouldn't need instructions. They're one of these QR codes. Took forever, I mean forever, to arrive. You've heard me talking about radar. I ordered this the day I decided I was building a radar, and it has taken 4 weeks, something like that. I don't know. Way too long anyway. Oh, I thought that would be hollow. Oh well, it doesn't matter. We'll make it work. Oh, there's all the bits. There's a water tower. Which I'm sure we'll find a use for somewhere. There it is. Which we're going to set to one side. We don't need that. 3D printed, of course. The ladder looks like Jolly Green Giant could climb it. Where's a person? Have I got one handy? I don't. I do. Yes. All right, you're playing games now. You're being silly. It's a very wide ladder. And this one's even more so. Yeah, it is what it is. I hate that expression, but it is. Because it's 3D printed, of course, the bits aren't straight. And if you straighten them, I dare say we'll hear a cracking sound. Let's stop complaining and start putting it together. The detail on one side is very good. On the other side, of course, non-existent. It's just, I could have done this with styrene rod and so on, couldn't I? There we go, something like that. Now, it's interesting, just to change the subject a little, it is interesting to me that water towers are so everywhere here, and I don't remember seeing them in the UK. They must be there, I would think. Perhaps I'm just not looking in the right place, but here they're everywhere. Some people I know's kids climbed up on the one not far from here and painted on the top their undying love for their girlfriend. So yeah, I see. So it goes, we make a square and the square sits in the base. Oh, that's the base. That's interesting. The base, so what's this bit for then? Huh. If that's the base and this is the top, what is this big piece for? Perhaps I should look at the instructions. Hang on, let me look. Well, it seems that the water tower itself sits on the big thing with, where's the fat ladder I had earlier? What did I do with it? There it is. It sits there with the big ladder. Quite why you need to get on the roof, I don't know. I'm supposed to look in the top. And then this whole thing sits on top of that. And that whole thing, is that right? No, this, it sits on top of that. And then that sits in there. Well, we're not using the water tower. We could or could not use this. We'll see. Let's build the base first. Sort of want the don't really want this. If that had been hollow, I would have used it. Do we need the big old piece at the top? It depends how big we make the radar, doesn't it? There are railings that go around this. It will look huge. Again, let's put a person against those railings. At the right height, of course, OSHA would have a nightmare. He could fall out under them. Really, this is the part we need. This seems big. And if I put this that way up, that's the base. Put this that way up. Do I need... That's big enough for the radar base, actually. That's ginormous. Kit bashing. I think the first thing I need to do is build this side, isn't it? next question will be, is it too tall? It isn't too tall, Ian. Radar have to be up. So we'll pop this together. I'll find a piece of scrap. There's not much of that. I'll find a piece of scrap to see what glue works best with it. This stuff says cement for plastic models, but this filament from 3D, I wonder what it does. We'll see. Well, it looks like that works. This particular project is yet further cementing the idea that I need to get at some point into 3D printing, because then I could have designed what it is I want specifically and done it myself. Not a bad kit. Am I sounding a little bit skeptical? Yeah, I am, because I know how much I paid for it. I know how long it took, and I'm looking at the quality of the model and thinking, but yeah, I'm not complaining much. Well, it's coming together. Very simple model. In olden days, we'd have been gluing each of these cross members in, wouldn't we? Do you remember? Oh dear. All right, let that set for a bit. Put the top on the glue. Don't think it looked terrible as a grain silo. Wonder if I could cut it in half and get two halves. I really thought this would come needing gluing together, but that's clearly one 3D printed part. It's one of the few times where the 3D print profile, it's obvious, but it sort of adds to it in this instance because of the corrugations in the metal. They wouldn't be that small, but yeah, as a 3D piece, it's not bad at all. If you like that sort of thing. It's amazing some of the things we adapt, isn't it? It's taking its own sweet time to set that glue. I am going to put the top on because it'll keep, well, this side, because it will keep the other two bits square. I know I should be using one of these. Suddenly realised these things are like gold dust. The local craft store didn't know what I was talking about when I asked if they had them. I'm sure that's where I bought them. That's one of the things I should have given my brother-in-law. He's going to a aircraft model shop on the other side of town today with my nephew. At least I think that's what they're doing. And I should have put that on the list of things for him to find, shouldn't I? They would have them. Oh well, we live and learn. Of course, there is a thing called a telephone. I could actually text him or send him a picture, say, while you're out, could you get some of these? But they're having a Father Sunday, so I don't want to impose. All right. I will go away and leave that to set and have a little think about what I'm going to do next. I have a feeling that isn't it. We'll see. Well, Mr. Fat Controller, what do you think? Radar tower's coming along. This is the ladder they say goes with it. I'm going to borrow that for one moment and wonder if it matches up with the signal. Yes, do you see what I mean? They can't both be right, can they? What do you think, Doug? I think that ladder looks more like a fence to me. I mean, as a complete piece, I can see it. I mean, it doesn't look horrible, but yeah. Don't think we're going to be using that top platform somehow. Well, context is everything, isn't it? Let's take this up to the layout and see what we can see. Well, there's all kinds of scale issues going on over here. Clearly this is rather large. The base is useful, but not necessary. I think it probably looks just as well without it. So let's discard it. The top, in comparison to everything else, is massive. The railings are well over scale compared to the tower. Do you see that? Although, as you can see, there's plenty of options in prototypical form to justify just about anything. So let's discard it. Where do we put the tower? Well, there's a practical thing going on here too. It can't go over here. Let's move the light out of the way. It would be too close to the runway, although they actually often are close to runways in real life, but that's just too close. There's a pencil line there, do you see it? It can't go inside that, that's the children's playground. That isn't a bad place for it there. Somewhere along that line there. In front of the, but look at the eye line of the tower with the aircraft. That's not clever either. The moment we start getting back here, it would fit there, but the moment we start getting back there, it wants to be shrinking down, not getting bigger. But that again isn't bad. I can move this that way, or we can cheat it that way. The TV crew, they're up there. That's the company I used to work for. TV crew, they can go anywhere, they're fine. I think somewhere over here. So the radar sits on top, but the motor and mechanism sit down here underneath that board. So you've got to make sure you're away from the tracks. So that pushes it this way. Getting up against that playground again, I think somewhere there is going to work. Don't need the ladder. Do you know what? That ladder might make a fence. Do need a fence around the top. How people get up there? Well, we'll leave that to people's imagination. Rungs on the inside. Do want to paint it a little bit. Red and white are good colours for any towers. The reason I had hoped the centre pole was hollow is because, of course, that's where I'm going to run the shaft that turns. Very often there's all kinds of other antennas sitting up here that come on down through the middle. So there's usually a little hut at the bottom. I'm sure we can come up with an electrical hut. The only reason I can think of for using that base is to locate the legs and the center point and all that good thing. I don't think we're going to need it. It's very easy to mark the holes and put a cross between them, and that will give us the center point, which we will need for the radar. All right, let's go to the bench and see what we can come up with. This is the stainless steel rod I'm going to use for the shaft that turns. There's a flange here, seems a bit overkill, but that will work. We will need one of those. There's 2 of those, is it? And the Allen key. I'll leave the other 2 in the bag just because I keep losing them. These things join. Seems like overkill engineering, doesn't it? And we're going to need some of these from that little bag. I'll leave the whole bag out. Put these away. And these were the motors we decided to use, weren't they? Do you remember? All kinds of lovely clips and screws and who knows what else. So we will put that on the desk. So we've got to, I mean, we could build a box and shove this under there, but I'm going to put it underneath the baseboard. So we put a shaft on there. Does that fit in the hole? If it doesn't, we're changing our plans, I'm telling you. It does, but only just. Come on. Get in there. It's in. Then on the other end, there's a little burr on the end of the bar. There we are. Never put your finger over the end when you're giving it a thump. So that then would sit on the top there. You can see why I wanted it to go up the tube in the middle, but actually cutting that off will be just fine. And then I'll cover this with heat shrink tubing. I do want to cut that to the right length-ish. I'm going to have to make up a bracket underneath the board. So cutting that in half will work. You watch it, when I turn it, it's going to go. We'll run some other cables down the middle. So that's our drive mechanism. So it means I've got to cut this off. Even more reason why we don't need that. Yes. It's interesting that this doesn't, do you see the little lip on it? Doesn't fit. Yeah. Good job, guys. We'll make sure we don't lose these. Those grub screws are going to get lost, aren't they? Let me clean up here. They're the drive mechanism bits. This then is what is going to attach to the bottom of the radar itself. That's what we've got to work with. Very shiny. All right, pro tip for you. When you're trying to put these grub screws in, I've worked on real radar. I'm going to give you a little bit of electronic theory in just a second. There we go. You put them on the Allen key first, then you don't have to fiddle around getting them in there. There we go, it's in. See, look at that. Lovely. A little bit of electronic theory because I know some of you love it. Really quickly, the question today is, have you heard of a waveguide? If this is a plus and a minus and I put a coil between the two, that is, for DC, that becomes a short circuit fairly quickly. Put lots and lots and lots of turns and the short circuit goes away. The higher the frequency, so if we put AC across there, as the magnetic field comes and goes, that is less of a problem. So the higher the frequency then, the fewer turns you actually need in that coil. So then, can you imagine, there's two wires, and this is the no-turn piece of wire. There comes a point where the magnetic field around that would be resistive to a very high frequency. See? Now, why is that significant? Well, what if I put another one the other way up? Do you see? So you've got to see that as an inductor. And once you get to very high frequencies, you don't need turns in the wire because the magnetic field around the wire becomes resistive. So you're not actually short. If it were DC, of course that's a short circuit, but at very high frequency AC, that isn't a short circuit anymore. Now then, one more piece of paper. What am I drawing? Have you ever seen waveguide? It's just a box section of usually copper. It looks like that. Now, how on earth can that work? Well, there's one conductor, there's the other. Let's put this one to ground, shall we? And then we'll put our signal in there. So here comes our very high frequency signal. Can you see this point and this point are the same as this point and this point? And all I've done is put a whole lot of inductors. Let's draw those lines. Oh, I've got the ladder underneath. There's our conductors. I'm just adding more and more of them. You see what I'm doing? Until it's a solid lump. And we put some on the bottom too. So if you think of waveguide in that way, it will help you have a little bit of a mind bend around, look at this, I've still got that stuff on my pencil, around how it works. That is what we usually run to radar. Waveguide. It's usually not square, to be honest. It usually is rectangle in shape. Typically it's about that size, something like that. So I can put my thumb in the end of it. We're not going to get into the high detail of that, but just so if you've ever wondered how waveguide works, that's it. There's some very clever things you do when you go around corners, and it doesn't bend well. But yeah, radar waveguide. You get it in microwaves too. Since we've already had one safety moment today, let's have another. Don't mess about inside microwaves, they're nasty. No, seriously, don't. This is the stuff we're going to use to make the radar. A number of you have asked if I should use, or suggested I should use that metal grid stuff. I'm not going to. I'm going to use a solid radar on top, so curve on the bottom, and we'll just use a couple of bits of styrene, and then the bit that goes out the front will be styrene too. Let me get that cut out. Well, I thought about using a craft knife, but instead I'm just using scissors. It's going to make a mess. Yeah, and then we'll trimming the spikes off the end there. That's what I'm doing. So we've now got a squared, it isn't square, a squared piece. They are parabolic, so it means that they would normally be dented in the middle. What I'm going to do is just try and push the middle out with a heat gun. It's sort of kind of doing it on its own. So I'm just going to point a heat gun at that and see what happens. Well, I got it squidgy. I don't want to make it look like it's melted, and then used a screwdriver to put a bit of a dent in it. I'm not sure that that really worked. I think we'll be fine. You can't have everything, but it does look like about the right sort of kind of shape. Now if I glue these two bits of styrene together, and that will make the top, and I'll cheat by gluing it there, and that'll hold that shape. I'm not overly worried about this shape. I think that'll come on its own. Now we need a snout. Something like that. Cut that at an angle. Yeah. I'm hoping I got an odd number of pieces on that. We'll see. And then if I glue that the other way round, just a little piece. This stuff is always fun to work with, isn't it? And there we are. Now I'll glue all that together and we'll be in good shape. It looks about right. We can always scrape it down if it's not. Let's see if I did have the right number of holes. You can always trim one off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 16. Of course there are. Yes. Well, never mind. I will say my one strip of that is more convincing as a ladder. Look at that. I will use that. It's good to know. I've been saying for ages these hotel cards are going to come in handy one day. Tried to get the Sheridan signal in the middle, but can't. So we're just going to put that on the top, and we'll just know that it was a hotel key. That will give us something to screw through if necessary, and we can put that on the bottom once I've got this shape right, which it still isn't, but it will come. It's amazing what a good cup of tea will do. I'm looking at this, realizing I've got to take that off to get to the wires underneath. Why am I making this so difficult? You know, sticking this on the board and then getting this lined up and all of that, and then trying to connect everything. Why don't I just put this up underneath there? It's only twice the size of that shaft, and I can put heat shrink tubing around it, so long as I don't snug it up too much there. So that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to cut this off, put a piece of something underneath there, mount the radar underneath that, and we'll be fine. This is all set nicely. So yeah, we'll be in good shape. So I've got to cut the stalk off the bottom. I'll probably make a big hole in it or something. It being 3D printed, it may just shatter on me, mightn't it? All right, let's make a hole where the middle is. And tidy that up with my craft knife. I'm going to pop that on there. And that will give us the height. I wanted a little more height. Just the bottom of the radar. So there's enough room for fence. Yeah, go over that. I was going to put antennas there, but now I'm going to have to stick them out of the side. Let's get the radar working first. All right. Now, to mark those holes, that's going to be more interesting. How do you do that? Put something through them. Well, that's frustrating. You see these holes there? They are threaded. You wouldn't want to put anything very long through there because there's gears the other side, but they did provide some bolts, but they are not the right bolts to go through there. Oh well, and I haven't got the ones I need to do that. So now we've got to come up with a clamp bracket or something. I'm looking through my metal scrap box and no idea what they were. So I've got to make a right angle bracket that is as wide as that clip and that extends to the end of the shaft and goes right angle. So a little bit of measuring, cutting, grinding, saying rude words and all that good stuff. And then I've got to mount it onto that. So this is going to be a little bit of fun, a little bit of metal work, and I'll show you the results in a few minutes. A little bit of foam rubber in between the bracket and the plate there. Not the prettiest. It will paint up quite nicely. I shall probably put a logo of some sort on the back there. Paint the silver bits black. Yeah, let's pop it on the top and see what happens. So with some of that painted black and the radar on top of there, I think we're in good shape. 2 screws, we'll disguise those. We'll just paint them. Going to change those wires out for both black and then we'll see what happens. Gracious, icky. Let's get those wires off of there. 1, 2. The little bit of styrene there is to try and give it a bit of upward angle. I may try and move that again. It's all in place. 2 wires running down into a motor control. Right now I've got it hooked up to a battery. The wires coming down don't look out of place. We haven't seen it go round yet though. Let's see if we can do that. Does this work? I've got a light. Not turning though. Aha! That looks about right, doesn't it? Yes. It's got that look to it. Lots of adjustment, paints, trimming, filing and all that good stuff. Some other antennas and a railing. But yeah, generally speaking, I think we're there. Looks good. Red and white, I think. What do you think? Oh, don't be silly. So we have control of the speed. Something like that is what I'm anticipating. I will say the radar on the top of the control tower, which is what I'm familiar with, is much more that kind of speed. But these ground radar are much different speeds. These tend to be slower. We've got control, so we can something like that, and I think it looks just right. Well, I'm sure you don't want to see me painting all afternoon. I shall put on some classic FM and have a good listen whilst I paint. Red and white stripes is what I've got in mind. Thanks for watching. See you next time now.